jolly, because I'm quite interested. I used to be interested in children's literature. Yes, the boy in the front cap. I'm not related, no. But I mean, I wouldn't mind if he discovers that he's related to me, I wouldn't mind. I'm really quite flexible about that, yes? When I was adopted, did I have a say in the casting? Oh, yeah, in the clothing. Well, yes, I did, yeah. But, I mean, no absolute say, but yes, I did have a say. And sometimes with the designers, we used to change it a bit, as you know, if you watched it. Gradually it got more and more operatic. So in the end, it was a kind of a tonsillitis red. Yeah, it was very, very extravagant. Anyway, yes, I've got eyeglasses.
When did you get married to your present wife, and do you still live in that little house by the graveyard?
When I got married to my present wife, 6 years ago. But this wasn't due to a misunderstanding. I mean, we actually planned. I said, will you? And she said, yes. I mean, she didn't know what I was going to say. You know, will you have a croissant or will you have a turkey sandwich? She said yes, and passed me on the door and came back with a fantastic frock. And so we went down and did the deed, yes. And I do still live next to a graveyard, yes. I've always wanted to live next to a graveyard, preferably on a cliff by the sea. But I couldn't fix that, but I'm in the graveyard. I'm terribly at home with the dead, yeah. I feel so unthreatened by them, yeah. I like them, actually, yeah. Actually, if I mow the grass. I asked them, because there's a lot of grass in the cemetery next to me, could I put some sheep in there? Not because I've got sheep, but a friend of mine got sheep. And you know, the church wardens got quite shirty about this. They said, no, we're not going to have sheep, you know, cropping the tummies of our dead. They said, you can do it with your Honda mower. But I mean, I couldn't actually make the separation there. They didn't want the little old sheep cropping the tummies of their dead, but they didn't mind me roaring over them with a bloody great Honda mower. And then there's no reasoning with a bidding, is there? Yes.
Are you familiar with interested people find a private place, which is not a graveyard?
No, but I'm familiar with the original poem. No, I haven't read that, no. But I mean, I really do mean it. I'm comforted by I hope actually when it comes to die, because you know, when you get to my age, you think about it a lot. Well, I have no choice but to think about it, because it keeps knocking on the side of my head. Because my friends, you know, keep going to lots of memorial services. But I hope that when my turn comes and I really begin to disintegrate, because then tell me what happens. What consoles me, you see, to take the fear out of death. You really want me to bang on about this comic stuff, eh? But don't worry about death at all, because I really have looked around me, you know, and I've checked it out, and I've read books, and I've been watching people like hawks. And no one, as far as I know, you can see me afterwards if you know something there, no one gets away with it. We all go, really. And I'm terribly thrilled when some famous man dies, he gets a big obituary, and I think, I didn't even know he lived. He's got this big obituary, you know, because he's just died. I think, I'll be all right. You know, Mozart went through it, Beethoven went through it. Yeah, I think, well, I don't want to put myself in that class, but I think, all right, you know, lots of little people went through it as well. Unfortunately, quite a lot of actors go through it. And when I get the equity thing every 3 months, I always turn first of all to see as the opposition thinned out a bit. Because it does strike me that character actors, particularly every time one sort of example, seem to me to live an enormous amount of time. I mean, the butlers just will not go. And well, like certain American politicians, no, rest.
Is it hard to play 2 roles at once like you did with Snowanny?
Well, yes, it is hard to find roles, because although the group I acted with is getting smaller by the year, of course they're much more accomplished. And so when the parts come up for middle-aged men who are not quite right in the head, although it's a relatively small group, it's still a very powerful group in England. And so one knows that when a play comes up, you know, one might be 5th in line. Yes?
Yeah, on your mid-50 stage, writers, the producers really did take advantage of the whole bizarreness of the Doctor situation, meaning, inside the TARDIS, just in this situation in general. What would you want us to do?
Well, I don't know. I can't speak for writers. People often seem surprised that, I didn't work more, or people say it's a good idea and do it. But I mean, I don't know what goes on and why they don't offer me work, or I think sometimes I do have a reputation for being a bit difficult, because, it's very, very difficult actually for a director to deal with a happy actor. If a chap's actually quite happy to go home to his missus, it's very difficult to intimidate him, isn't it? And you all know that. When you feel happy, you feel brave. Happiness and bravery go together. And so because for years now I've been very happy, because my wife indulges me, and lets me get away with murder, it means that, I'm not in the mood, actually, for indulging directors, because one of the kind of madnesses of being an actor is you have to assume as the star that the director knows everything. Everything. He knows all about astrology and cookery and where the best restaurants are in Italy and all that kind of thing. And you have to listen to him while he talks about geology. And you keep thinking, why don't we get on with this? And I don't feel like doing that when I'm happy. Yeah. Did somebody make me wear makeup? Well, by the 18th season, maybe I needed some makeup. there were kind of awful, cruel things like saying, I hear Tom's getting the painters and decorators in. But I didn't really mind that at all. I've never been worried about looking glamorous. There's no need to be worried about it, is there? Yes.
What work have you done recently?
Well, there's 2 series I told you, Narnia, which took me nearly 4 months, and Setting Hitler, for which I was, that's this year, so Setting Hitler, on which I was 7 weeks or 8 weeks or something, so that was very good. And in between time, I do a lot of commentaries, for wildlife things, or businessmen, or, oh yes, I did a film about migraine. A firm asked me would I write a script about migraine, and they said, do you suffer from migraine? I said, I'm a martyr to it. So of course, I hadn't had 2 headaches in my life. I've had a lot of heartache, but no headache. I said, I'm a martyr to it. They said, you're our man. And so I went on and brazenly said, how bad it was trying to cope with being a migraine sufferer. But I wrote the scripts, and they wouldn't accept my scripts, but they let me be in the film anyway. My scripts are terrible, but they were so terrible, I thought they were bordering on being wonderful. But fortunately, they cancelled them. But they paid me for being in it, yes?
First of all, what was it like working in Nicholas and Alexandra? Is Tom Baker your real name, and what's your favorite Dickens?
Yeah, Tom Baker is my real name, but when I was a young actor, I set up 2 things. I won the gold medal at grammar school for the autograph course. As soon as I became an actor, as soon as I got the scholarship, I wrote my Oscar speech. That was the first thing I did, which was quite short actually, rather moving. It's still there in the drawer. I haven't had any occasion to use it. And the other thing is, I set out to have a wonderful autograph. I used to practice for hours. Cordially yours, Jake Bromberg, you see. And as it came to the end of the course, I discovered there was a fellow called Jake Bromberg in Equity, so I had to call myself Tom Baker. So I had to start writing all over again, which is very silly because my name is Tom Baker. But and Nicholas Alexander, I can't remember anything about it. No, I can't remember anything about it. Except I believe the publicity, that's right, yeah. That was a fearful mistake, yes.
You have a good reputation doing theater and TV. You ever consider doing comedy?
Well, I do consider doing comedy, but nobody will let me do comedy. When I played Macbeth in London, I remember getting lots and lots of laughs. And of course this didn't count as, because that was considered a good idea. But I can't conceive of a situation without looking instantly for the irony of it, or the comedy of it. And the more deadly the situation, and the more people suffer, the more there is some sometimes the ghastly energy of laughter. I remarked to you earlier before, Dickens diffused horror in his books with laughter. And of course, this is because as a genius observer, he knew that people diffuse horror with laughter. A great deal of the time, if you read the books of people who have suffered terribly, like Mandelstam, the poet, Hope Against Hope, Natasha Mandelstam, how they could laugh in those hideous situations in the Gulag, how people laughed in the camps during the war, people fell in love in those camps, So I'm interested really in fighting fear with laughter, but this is because I'm a very timid chap. Do you want me to tell you a story about fear? One time, forgive me if you've heard this before, but last year sometime, I've recorded this on tape for distribution over here in something called the Mythmakers, but so I'll tell you, I was in a taxi cab, and London cab drivers are notoriously chatty, especially to actors. And when you get in, they always have someone more famous or more distinguished than you in the cab, They would say, yeah, we had another Guinness in the cab last week, or whatever, something really reassuring. Anyway, I'm in this cab, I'm driving along, and suddenly the cab flicked his finger, and I thought, here it comes, Went to a Doctor Who or something like that, or didn't really, so he said, well, he said, it's a pleasure having you in the cab, Mr. Pertwee. The story is much more frightening than that. I could have coped with that. So I said, with very heavy irony, I said, well, it's a pleasure to be in your cab, Governor. I said, because we sometimes talk like that. I said, yeah, it's a pleasure to be in the cab. Yeah, he said, Mr. Pertwee. Bloody hell, Mr. Pertwee. He said, I was only thinking the other day, I was talking to my wife, we were talking about the old Doctor Who's. I said, Mr. Pertwee, you were so elegant. I mean, you were so witty and sarcastic and all those nice clothes you had. Yeah, he was definitely the best. So I said, well, I'm glad you liked it. And so he said, yeah, that's right, yeah. And the other thing, Mr. Pertwee, he said, I mean, you were second on, so eventually, of course, I knew it was coming, it comes this whole inquest into the history of the programme to Mr. Pertwee. So we established that Bill was the first, that Pat was the second, that Mr. Pertwee was the third. And then I began to shake. And we still had quite a long way to go, the traffic was heavy. Yeah, he said, yeah, oh God, Mr. Pertwee, yeah. My wife thinks you're one. He said, tell you what though. Here it comes. He said, who was that fellow that followed you? So I said, what, I said, that tall fellow. I said, got a curly hair. He said, that's right, yeah. He was always drunk, wasn't he? Drunk as a boy. I said, was he? Oh, he said he was a notorious drunk, Mr. Pertwee. Throwing up in cabs, kicking tables over in restaurants. God, belching and farting like a buffalo. So, I thought, really? How am I going to wriggle out of this one? Because I knew the next question was coming, and sure enough, Cadwell was quite ridiculous. He said, yes, oh, monstrous. Anyway, what happened to him? So I said, thinking desperately, I said, it's a bit sad actually. He said, oh yeah. He wasn't moved by the idea of me saying it was a bit sad. He said, oh, I said, yes. He died in a basement flat in Clapham, absolutely alone, drunk as a ball. I said, the man, he's buried over there, and you go to the grave, they say, I said, I haven't been over there, but they say, if you stand by the grave, you can actually smell the beer. So this fellow said, oh, died, did he? Oh, well, anyway, Mr. Pertwee. I thought, just a minute, never mind anyway, Mr. Pertwee, what about me? I've just died. But he didn't seem to be at all moved by the news of my death. But the point about this thing about fear is that when I got out of the cab, he said, could you just sign the autograph, Mr. Pertwee? So I wrote out again, best wishes, Tom Baker, R.I.P. I handed it to her open so they'd see it. And the way basically, as he took it, he closed it and threw it on the dashboard. And I gave him a £2 tip. That's how frightened I was of him. And then, walking away feeling a terrible coward, as he shouted, "Nice to see you, Mr. Burnaby," I suddenly thought to myself, my God, maybe he's going around, they have these little cafes that they go to, you know. And I suddenly visualised the next nightmare was that he drove up to the cafe, he went in, he said to his mates, "Hey, I just had that bloody daft Tom Baker in the cab, and I kept calling him poetry, and he fell for it." Anyway, so there's a story about, yeah, yes. Go on, yes?
I write obituary application for whichever, and I thought that I would be writing one for you for a long time. But I wonder if there's anything you'd like to do.
I didn't know really, because I bought recently because wanting to make people love me in the church. I go into church in the summer, especially. I can't be doing it in the winter because it's cold, but I go in the summer and I've got a lot of cats, and the cats come in the church, and they're very nice. In fact, there are more cats than there are people in the church. I mean, because by that I mean I've got 12 cats, so obviously there are about 10 people in the church. So I go in there, but I saw an old gravestone because I'm desperate to be buried. I mean, not right now. And, you know, well, sometime soon I want to be buried. I don't want to be burnt. I want to be buried in in wood, in the ground, you know, and have the November rain slashing down and be eaten by worms. Oh, it's really good. I love gorgonzola cheese as well. That's another story. But so I bought an old gravestone. I mean, I'd advertised for one, you know, because there's a kind of Exchange of March magazine. And occasionally you see a gravestone, you know, it says gravestone for sale, suit a family called Williams. But I couldn't find it. So I got one. It was so warm, but still thick. And I bought it off them. And so that they wouldn't say it again, because you can't trust these people. Anyone who will deal in second-hand tombstones, you know, is the sort of person who might deal in second-hand dentures. That's enough to make it absolutely shudder, isn't it? And so I had my name put on it. And there's a star at the top, that's marked, but it's quite a small star. And underneath it just says Tom Baker, in very bold letters, Tom Billy, right at the top. No, nobody presents, it just says Tom Baker, 1934 dash. Yeah, that's the end of the story. You know what we're filling in, do you? Yes.
I noticed in your bio it said that you had done Robin Hood. Did you do the ITV version? And if so, which episode?
I did Robin Hood. I didn't do Robin Hood. I played the Basil Rathbone character. I forgot his name. Said Guy, I think. And George played not George Shakir. Who did I say? George Siegel played Robin Hood. Yeah. But I don't think it will be remembered for very long. Yes.
What would be the ideal role to play?
What would be the ideal role for me to play? Any role when I'm out of work. I mean, having like a museum, people, you see, often people ask me to do jobs, you know, and they just think I'm an old chop. I mean, just because someone rings me up and says, "You want to play Uncle Barnyard?" I mean, you know, I'm not a beggar in the street. I know my Chekhov. I long to be Uncle Barnyard, but I need to be wooed. I mean, a big old chap like me needs to be wooed. I don't want casual phone calls from 30-year-old directors who've been to Oxford and Cambridge, and then Yale and Harvard and Princeton and everywhere else. I want them to tell me why they want me to do the play, and I want to know what they think about the play. Otherwise, I can be in plays most of the time, which are just audible print. You know, so I learn the part, and it's not a very interesting production. I stand up and I say it, I hope very well, and it's okay. But I don't want to do it like that. I want to be in marvelous things, even if they're failures. I'm quite used to failures. In fact, I'm an artist as far as failures. Really. I mean, people come for miles to ask my advice about failures. You know, people get tired of success and want to try something else. They often come to my house for tea. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was wondering, Jonathan mentioned earlier how expensive it would be. You said you might be able to do a Dr. Seuss. Would you ever think of finishing Shayna?
No, I don't think so, no. I don't think I would go back to something, you know, that's abandoned. No, I don't think I would do that. Yes?
Like one of the archaeologists in
among certain people in parts of Europe because it's very good. It's so awful. But I mean, where they're using it now in these kind of perfume houses, you know, people who sell cream. It's so bad, it makes people's flesh creep. And of course, when their flesh creeps, it improves their complexion no end. And people say, my God, darling, is that expensive cream? They say, no, it's Tom Baker, it's true carbon. Yeah. So it can work out. Yes?
Have you seen or heard from Jonathan Nathan Turner at all lately? Never?
No, when I left the BBC, you know, I didn't see much of them. Occasionally I met the BBC crowd among fans like you on dues like this, but no, I didn't see, you know, I dropped the whole thing. I thought that was it until something else came in. We're getting near the end now, and you ran out of questions. That little boy there?
What role did you play in Narnia?
In Narnia, I played Puddleglum, the marsh wiggle. Yeah. He's not of this world, so naturally I'm terribly good at playing something not of this world. Because, you see, the advantage you have of playing someone out of this world is that no one knows how people out of this world, you know, go on, do they? So, you know, there's nothing to justify it, except Jack Nicholson. Yes.
How did the idea of the scarf that you wore originate, and do you own one yourself?
No, the scarf just originated. I can make this very brief. The idea was to have a pretty scarf like that in those lovely rich colours. And Jim Atchison, who's now a big designer, he did Bertolucci's last film, and he did the Last Emperor, for which he won an Oscar. He didn't know anything about knitting either, so he bought this wool on a taxpayer. That's the nice thing about BBC. So he spent someone else's money, and he gave this big box of wool to a woman, and he said, knit this scarf up. She'd never worked for the BBC before, but therefore very excited. You're only ever excited once working for the BBC. And she also, I don't think she had a lover at the time, or she knew he was away on the O-rings or something. So she started knitting in the spare bedroom. And when we went back a fortnight later, she really must have had no private life at all, because the room was full of scarf. I mean, absolutely as if you can't open the door. So we put it on, and she said, how do you like it? And Jim Atchison, in his great wit, said, leave it like that. And that's how it all started. Yes? I do have a birthday, yes. Oh, thanks, yeah. Thank you, yeah. Yes.
What's the funniest mistake that ever happened to you on the show?
Oh God, this place is full of journalists today. The funniest mistake, maybe the funniest mistake was actually the accident of my birth. I mean, I got my part of Liverpool, the working classes were conceived mostly on Saturday nights after 8 pints of Guinness. And so this happy accident, I hope it was a happy accident for my mother anyway. And so everything on has just been another stumble. You know, the only success I've had, you know, history has forced them on me through some dark, obscure reason of its own. I don't know. Practically everything I've done is a mistake. Except coming here today wasn't a mistake. So far. Eh? Oh, I'd do anything. I'd consider anything for, as long as it's legal. Yes, and sometimes I do voiceovers with commercials, yeah. Sometimes I do. Yeah, I do lots of commentaries, mostly commentaries. We're getting near the end. This is the way you're on. One day, he said that I ever met any of my predecessors or successors. One day, a few months ago, I was in a studio, and below me, Sylvester McCoy walked in. And you know, I really admired him. I remember him at the National Theatre playing, you know, Pied Piper and things like that, which was wonderful. And I said, hello, Sylvester. But I mean, he said, hello, Tom, because you know, he speaks marvelous English. So he said hello, and obviously he knew I didn't want to be seen with him, because you know, instantly you feel like in a double act, especially you know, because Sylvester me. And so I went on reading my paper, and it was very disappointing. Hardly anyone of any interest had died that day at all. And then suddenly I heard a funny voice, and the whole room lit up like a huge light bulb had gone off. And I lowered my paper. John Perkin was standing there, looking at Sylvester. I thought this must be a conspiracy. What's going on? How embarrassing. So I lay down behind the paper with on the sofa. Well, I'll just wait for them to go away. Or maybe I die and this is hell. But no, suddenly a girl came and said, Tom, because she recognized my shoes. She said, Tom. And I said, she put her head out and they gave me the script. She said, you're working with John and Sylvester. And it was a coffee commercial. And I thought I'd get terribly worked up about this and get very creative. I suddenly said, I've got a great idea. And I saw a horror coming into John Perkin's face. And the producer said, no, Tom, look, it's fine. And I said, this is a great idea. And I saw Sylvester getting smaller and smaller. It didn't take very long. So I told them my idea, and they never did make the commercial. And Sylvester and John haven't spoken to me since. But I don't care. Well, you've had enough, I suppose. What's the man with the green light in his hat?
Hi, Tom. I got a message from Sally Niven and Michael Keating. They said they adore you. That was in the 80s. They still adore you, and they love the books you gave them. Thank God for it.
Wow. Well, that's very, very sweet. But that wasn't the question. What question more?
I'll make arrangements. I want you to come to the stand-up comedy.
That's right. One more question. Yes, sir? I had a baby. Listen, you really must. Sometimes I have done a few sharp things in my life. Like maybe I thought of mine, and I would have thought to come on and say, ladies and my friends, I have just had a baby. It is amazing. But no, not only I haven't had a baby, neither has my wife had a baby. But sometimes I get misquoted in the press. And the latest one is actually that I died, and then I was in love with death, and then that I wanted to play Charles Dickens, and then that someone had a baby. I didn't know. No, I haven't had a baby. But I did have babies years ago. I mean, when my children were little, I can't tell you how much I loved them. I adored them when they were little. Now that they've grown up, I can't stand the sight of them. This is very weird, isn't it? Because as they grew up, I looked at them and I thought, my God, well, those are two are going to knock me up, you know, when I start going gaga. And every time they say, you know, from the age of around 13 onwards, you know, children do, even at 13, say, here are some things I say, would you like a banana, Dad? I think, what? I think banana? Just think, why don't they offer me a coconut? You know, because I had this horror, you know, finally people banging bananas into me, saying, how about a banana, Mr. Baker? I don't look forward to that stuff at all. Simply because I'm not mad about bananas. On the other hand, when I get to that stage, I'm no good with coconuts. Yes?
How do you give your time now with Dr. Who? It almost seems like there's a bit of bitterness toward it, or that you want to separate yourself from it.
Oh, no, I only have really, mostly happy memories of having been Dr. Who, which was the nicest job I ever had. I mean, it was the only job I ever liked to have, in which I was in touch for so long, and still in terms of my American friends, to play the hero, and a great hero, you know. I mean, there isn't, I don't mean about my performance, I mean about the character. There hasn't been a character in television fiction like him. And so I'm very grateful to have done that. And sometimes when I'm trying to make you laugh, if I appear to be going too far, I'm quite aware that I'm going too far. One of the problems I had in life is I've often gone too far. And the thing is, I also have no sense of direction, which is why I didn't become an explorer. And so I often get lost on the way and don't know what I'm talking about right now. Yes?
You found out another baker is Dr. Who.
Well, I didn't mind about another baker being Dr. Who, because at that time I was going through a phase when I actually was acquiring a French accent, because I thought I'd been quite keen on learning French, and so I started to call myself Tom Boulanger. To the point where this actually went badly wrong, but only a few months ago there was a terrible Boulanger, a popular film made with Steve Martin and Michael Caine and something, and an actor fell ill or expired, I don't care. And so they were trying to find someone, an English actor, who could speak with a French accent. You know, anyone could have done it, but 500 of us could have done it in London. So this really rather hatchet-faced, swivel-eyed girl from New York, actually, who took being a casting director extremely seriously. I mean, she was like, you know, the bloody agent of the Archangel Gabriel. And so she said to me, she outlined this in this kind of clipped voice. I can't do an accent, but she outlined it. She said, this guy is sort of middle-aged, well, you know, she didn't like to say like you, but I get it there. And he's going to have a kind of French accent, and he's middle-aged, and there's not much that goes on with it. So anyone could have done it. It's a gobshite's part, really, but well paid. So I said to this girl, she said, could you do that? I said, well, I don't know really, because I don't work very often. Because if she'd asked me if I work, that put me off. I found that absolutely repulsive from that moment onwards. I said, well, I don't work very often. I said, because, actually my name is, well, I mean, I'm trying to call myself Baker, because I try to work, but actually my name is Boulanger. And I don't work very often because of this kind of thick French accent I have. And I heard this girl went past for her brain, skid around the island the wrong way. And she said, I beg your pardon, she would say that. Pardon me, she said, so I said it again. She said, are you telling me, she began to look very, very edgy, as if she was having a very heavy period all of a sudden. She said, are you telling me that you're talking a French accent? I said, well, yes, I am. She turned to the English casting director, who was on the point of blacking out. The suicide mission I was on. You know. So anyway, this girl turned out to be really quite daft. And then I really quite fond of her. I thought, yeah, I can manipulate you. She said, anyway, I said, I don't think I'm interested anyway in this part. Because I thought I'd get that in before she said, bugger off. I said, I don't think I'm interested. She said, please, take the script. And I just read it, and it's going to be cast tomorrow at 10 o'clock. And the actor's got to be on a plane to Nice at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So I went down, and as luck would have it, you know, when you're hell-bent on self-destruction, it can get quite easy. I rushed out, and there was a phone right outside his office. So I rang my office, and Susan answered the phone straight away. I said, Susan, ring this girl from Brooklyn straight away, and tell her I read the script, and I think it's terrible. And so Susan said, okay, Tom, I put the phone out, and she put the message. So within 50 seconds of me leaving the office, when this girl implored me to read the part, she got the message that I hated it. Now, I would like to tell you that she begged me to have the part anyway, but she didn't. It turned out she had no sense of humor at all. Anyway, bye-bye, and thank you. It's been very nice.
Ooh, yes, it says.
445 1603. 445 1603. Oh, great. It's kind of how nice. I've seen 1,000 times.